This is Texas News Now, sponsored by Germania Insurance.
Welcome to Texas News Now. I'm Henry Ramos in San Antonio, and we're looking back at the big stories of 2025. It's been 5 months since the deadly flash flooding in the Hill Country on July 4th. 117 people were killed when a swollen Guadalupe River swept through homes, businesses, RV parks, and summer camps. 2 people remain missing. Among those killed, 25 girls and 2 counselors at Camp Mystic in Hunt, Texas. Megan Reyna was there the day after, as the search for the victims was just beginning.
As the Guadalupe River receded, reality started to set in Saturday.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
It's a lot of destruction. Most of the camps are gone, so Hunt's gone.
A growing death toll in a search to find missing young girls who just 48 hours ago were enjoying summer camp here at Camp Mystic. People who live in the Kerr County community hitting the ground, searching themselves.
We're just trying to keep doing what we can to find our missing.
And Governor Greg Abbott touring the campground Saturday afternoon. These operations included searching by boat, foot, and up in the air. Amanda Payne showed up to the scene with her daughters. One of them was getting ready to go to summer camp in Hunt next month.
It's just terrifying. I couldn't imagine.
She's thinking of the families who are going through an unimaginable pain. One of the victims identified, the camp's own director, Dick Eastland. The Kerrville Daily Times reporting he died while trying to save and protect campers from the rushing floodwaters.
Just hang in there, have faith, and I hope that we find your babies.
Christina Hernandez shared a similar message. She drove here from Ingram to hand out water to first responders, everyone in the community doing what they can to help.
We're just trying to make sure that our first responders are hydrated and they are good to go through the night and just be fully energized just to keep searching for everybody who's missing, especially the camp girls.
Megan Reyna, KENS 5.
Another big story, immigration raids in and around San Antonio. People who were going through the legal system to gain citizenship were ripped away from their families. Authorities also targeted a food truck park looking for people with ties to a notorious Venezuelan gang. Alicia Nieves has a look at that raid that was caught on camera.
This is video from Friday night outside Las Pollitas Snack y Tacos food truck, parked off San Pedro and Bassi. Families enjoying late-night elotes, agua frescas, and tacos. 48 hours later, chaos as federal agents rushed an event space right behind them. Witnesses say it was a 15-year-old's birthday party. When federal agents arrived, people started to run. You can see a group hiding inside a food truck.
Algo de temor.
Genesis Valdez, the owner of Las Pollitas, said it was a scary sight. She was closed at the time, but watched everything unfold through her security camera.
Como dueños de otra traila.
She said the owners of the only food truck that was open were detained, along with their customers who were outside eating. She watched as agents broke the handle of her food truck. They brought in a dog to check the trailer, she said. One agent is later seen using a table umbrella to break her surveillance camera. But the impact didn't stop there. Now, she says customers may fear coming back. She said now they're being associated with the raid because their food truck was unfortunately right in front. That's why she shared her security video on social media. She said, "We wanted people to see we are totally unaffiliated with what happened. We were closed. The people were in the building behind us, not our trailer." All 3 food trucks moved out. Genesis lost days of business, but she's found a new home at 7-Eleven Hildebrand. Alicia Nieves, KENS 5.
San Antonio voters made a big decision this year to expand downtown. They've agreed to give the Spurs a new arena, along with other improvements to the area. The 2 measures passed in November's election despite pushback from the mayor. Zach Briggs followed the results.
Lots of celebration between city and county leaders surrounding the passage of Props A and B, but still many questions about next steps. including when any of these projects are expected to get underway.
The county hotel occupancy tax is going up to a max of 2%, which will help pay for renovations to the Freeman Coliseum, Frost Bank Center, and other facilities tied to the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo. Funds generated from the tax will also go toward paying for a downtown Spurs arena, with contributions from the Spurs and city as well.
We've got a wonderful opportunity, I think, us moving forward together.
Officials could not say when exactly the venue tax increase will take effect or how many years it'll take to generate the funds required for these projects. From Bexar County Judge Peter Sakai to Mayor Gina Ortiz-Jones, they both emphasized a need to strengthen partnerships moving forward.
I intend to meet with the San Antonio Rodeo this week in order that we start putting into plan that schematics and then the timelines and the design.
We need to be expansive, we need to be strategic, we need to be bold in our vision and think about what it's going to take to have the revitalized downtown that we all want and that we all deserve.
And when trying to ask the mayor follow-up questions, she walked away. I'm Zach Briggs, KENS 5.
And those were the big stories in San Antonio for 2025.
Hello, I'm Cynthia Seguirre in Dallas, and here's a look back at the top stories in North Texas. Number one is the sniper attack on a Dallas ICE facility back in September. The shooter, identified as Joshua Yon, fired multiple rounds from a nearby rooftop. 3 detainees were shot, 2 of them died. No ICE agents were hurt in the attack, and then Yon turned the gun on himself before law enforcement got to him. Our Adriana de Alba spoke with the wife of one of those wounded detainees.
As the shooting outside of a Dallas ICE facility unfolded, Stephanie Goffney watched the chaos on TV, just like everyone else.
The thought did run my head, like, what if, he hasn't called me?
It would be too much of a coincidence, she thought. Then she got the call that her husband had been shot.
He's in the hospital right now. All we can tell you is he's alive, but I didn't know the seriousness of it, and I just headed straight towards the hospital.
Surveillance video shows the moment gunshots hit the transport van. The suspect fired from a rooftop, sending immigrant detainees scrambling for safety.
It was really hard to watch. That's like the moment that he was getting shot at.
Her husband, Miguel Angel Garcia, a father, ended up critical. One other detainee was shot. Another man was killed.
What's it been like ever since this happened?
It's just been a roller coaster of emotions. I feel like it's not real, like I'm living a dream, I told my mom the other day, I feel like I'm just gonna wake up and, oh, I just had a nightmare, Miguel,
She says her husband was shot 8 or 9 times and has been unconscious ever since. She hasn't heard his voice. Goffney is heavily pregnant with their 5th child due next week. Their kids still don't know what happened to him.
I feel like it maybe could have been prevented. Definitely shouldn't have happened under their custody.
The Department of Homeland Security says Garcia was initially arrested for a DUI and evading arrest. He landed at the Tarrant County Jail before being transferred to the ICE facility.
Just because of those things, does that mean he deserved to get shot at, attacked?
She says no human deserves what happened to her husband, and that Garcia, born in Mexico, was in the process of obtaining legal status. Now, they don't know if he'll survive.
They tell me that he might never wake up, or he might wake up. If he does wake up, they're like, we don't know if he'll even be able to talk, to move. We just don't know.
Still, she says family is by his side, praying for a miracle. In Dallas, I'm Adriana de Alba.
Tragically, Garcia died days after that interview. Since the attack, security has been increased at ICE facilities across the U.S. Top story number 2, the blockbuster trade that shook the sports world. If you were up late on February 2nd, you got the push alerts. Luka Doncic traded to the Lakers. Mavericks fans were not happy, and for months you heard the chant, "Fire Nico." The former Mavs GM stood by the trade and said he had no regrets. He was fired 9 months later. Immediately after the trade, fans were heartbroken. Some still are. Teresa Woodard has their message for Luka.
Washington will inbound the ball.
Dear Luka.
Dear Luka.
Dear Luka.
12.8 seconds to go.
Love letters might be a thing of the past.
Dear Luka.
But sadly,
stepping back for the win.
Dear Luka.
So's Luka.
Thank you so much for all the memories you gave us Dallas fans.
For being here for Dallas, for making us believe in basketball again.
We asked fans.
We're all on an emotional roller coaster, but at the end of the day, we love you so much.
Who don't personally know him, what they'd write in a letter to Luka.
I've been watching you since the time you got drafted when I was an 8th grader, and I'm a sophomore in college now, and it just won't be the same watching Maverick basketball without you on it.
Thank you so much for giving us your all, and we wish you the absolute best.
Turns out this is all
absolutely
deeply personal.
From a person that wasn't born here in the States, that migrated here from South Sudan and came to Dallas. From the time you were drafted, you showed me nothing but talent.
Hand off back to Luka.
You showed me will, and you showed me skill, and I'm very appreciative of that.
4 seconds.
It's like he plays like just a normal dude, like he's just going to work. It's like it's nothing to him. He's a wizard, literally on the court. Like
In desperation, he breaks it up, and there is Luka Magic right there.
he can do anything, you know? Just like our guy Dirk right there. Point the camera to Dirk over there.
Like his German predecessor, Luka was the face of our franchise.
And the logo, what is going on here?
But Luka gave us.
I think my favorite Luka moment is his buzzer beater
Against the Clippers.
in the bubble.
Back to Doncic.
Step back three-pointer.
Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang!
Magic.
Doncic wins the game at the buzzer.
Inexplicable, indescribable magic. On the court and off.
This was in my room. I don't even remember when I got it. I wrote, "Forever a Mav 77. Thank you for influencing me the last 7 years. Miss you always, LD 77." And under, I wrote, "Luka fan for life" instead of MFFL. I'll always be an LFFL for sure, 100%.
It's a basket and a foul! And a free throw for point number 70.
This is a love letter.
Yes, sir.
To someone leaving a team.
70 points.
We wish you nothing but the best. Dallas will always love you. It's your home away from home. Good luck with everything.
Point 71 and 72.
And one.
And taking the heart of a city with him.
77. Our love from Dallas.
I'm gonna miss you.
Got it. He's a flamethrower. He is on fire.
Thank you, Luka.
Well, finally, we don't see a lot of winter weather in North Texas, and when we do, the kids take advantage of those snow days. But back in January, depending on where you live, you woke up to a very different winter experience. Some cities had 8 inches of snow, while others, like here in Dallas, got as little as an inch. Sean Giggy found a tale of 2 cities.
In Plano, it was the best of times. But in Dallas, it was the meh of times.
How is the sledding out here today?
Not the best,
Obviously.
but not the worst either.
Flagpole Hill in Dallas got such little snow, the sleds weren't sledding.
Since the grass is like showing, then it slows down the sled kind of.
Or makes it completely useless. So some people tried to reinvent the wheel. Chair. What in the dickens?
I feel sorry for them. Maybe they should just come down here and do it.
No joke. Sledding was so much better if you'd go farther and farther north, even just 25 minutes to Hoblitzel Park in Plano.
When you like go down, it's fast. You get a lot of speed. I like that. It's like fun and fast.
Come on. Do you really need speed to enjoy snow? Even a small serving can be palatable.
Well, it's not quite as fast, but it still can be fun. 2, 1.
Friday, Plano was the spring of hope. Dallas, the winter of despair. Kids facing 2 different realities, but all sharing the same experience.
Because we don't really usually have snow days, so this was like a good opportunity for me to be with my friends and just sled. Because I like the snow, because snow doesn't happen that much in Texas. I'm probably gonna be out here a long time to appreciate it.
How often do you want snow?
Just like every single day until I die.
Buckle up. It's going to be a long winter. In Plano and Dallas, I'm Sean Giggy.
And we hope you have a happy new year.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at germaniainsurance.com. For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at germaniainsurance.com.
It has been a year full of stories that shaped Houston, and we're taking a look back at some of the top headlines. Hello, I'm Len Cannon. First, a dramatic standoff that brought traffic to a standstill on the North Freeway back in June. A woman armed with a gun sat in a lawn chair in the middle of the freeway, blocking lanes for hours. It was a tense scene, but also a story of hope. Deputies were able to talk the woman into surrendering peacefully. Our Matt Doherty was on the scene that day.
Precinct 4 deputies say this afternoon's chain of events started at about 1:30 this afternoon when a woman intentionally crashed into the back of an 18-wheeler on I-45. When they arrived, she was sitting in a chair in the middle of traffic holding a .38 revolver.
Who has history of mental illness. She's been transported to the hospital for help.
And it's for that reason that we're blurring the woman's face. For hours, officers and negotiators spoke with the woman, trying to get her to put down the gun. From what we could see, she held the pistol in her right hand with the barrel rested on her shoulder during the standoff. All the while, traffic piled up as lanes of the freeway had to be closed for safety. Rush hour diverted vehicles onto feeder roads, side streets and neighborhoods, an inconvenience for drivers trying to get home.
There's no price to put on life. If we'd had to stay here multiple hours, we would have.
Just before 6:30 tonight, we watched as the woman dropped the pistol on the ground and stood up from the chair, shaking the hands of the officers, even giving them hugs. We asked what negotiators said that finally made the woman surrender.
At some point, she felt we found something that she was willing to grasp onto to stay alive. And that was the most important thing that occurred here today. We saved a life.
We saved a life. Peaceful ending. Matt Doherty reporting there. Another story that captured statewide attention this year involved human remains discovered in Houston's bayous. At one point this year, 7 bodies were found in less than a month, sparking fears of a serial killer and prompting city officials to reassure the public. Now, a new report shows more and more of these bodies are being found, shining a spotlight on a troubling trend. The review posted by the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences shows a number of cases dating back to 2017. 2024 and 2025 being the deadliest years on record, with 66 bodies recovered so far. The report also breaks down where each body was found and how the people died, ranging from accidental deaths to suicides, but in many cases, the causes remain undetermined. One of those cases includes 43-year-old Rodney Chapman, whose body was found in Greens Bayou in September. His family says they're still searching for answers.
It's a lot of things going through my head just on the simple fact that we still don't know where his phone is. We still don't know where his wallet is. I just know that my brother was killed and he didn't just wander into the bayou.
In a statement, Mayor Whitmire says the Houston Police Department is increasing patrols on horseback, bikes, and other methods to help keep residents safe along the bayous. For a breakdown of that report, visit our website, khou.com. Now let's move to March. It brought the sudden passing of Congressman Sylvester Turner, a public servant whose impact on the city certainly will not be forgotten. He served 27 years in the Texas House, 2 terms as Houston mayor, and finally as U.S. Congressman for Texas's 18th Congressional District. Turner steered the city through some of its toughest challenges, including Hurricane Harvey and the COVID-19 pandemic. I sat down with Turner for several extensive interviews over the years. The day of his passing was a complete shock. I was just texting with him the night before while he was at the president's address to Congress. On his political rise, he proudly told me, "This kid from Acres Homes has come a long way." Soon, you will no longer walk into this building as mayor.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss it. We're gonna walk out slowly.
In November of 2023, Sylvester Turner was about to exit a life in politics after 8 years as mayor and 27 years as a state representative. It was a career of highs and lows. He lost his first run for mayor in 1991, lost again in 2003, finally winning on his 3rd try in 2015.
Let me just start off by saying, well, how sweet it is.
He had come a long way from his roots in Acres Homes. One of 9 children, his mother was a maid at the Rice Hotel, his father a commercial painter who died when Turner was 13. He showed promise early as senior class president at Klein High School and valedictorian. Then it was on to the University of Houston and Harvard Law School. After practicing law, he was elected to the Texas House of Representatives in 1988. Fast forward to the summer of 2024 and the sudden passing of Turner's close friend, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. Her death changed his mind about sitting on the sidelines. He would run for her congressional seat.
Only the passing of Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee at this critical time
Would get you in.
Would get me in.
Then I asked about his own bout with cancer in 2022. Are you healthy enough to run for Congress?
Well, number one, I would not be running if I were not healthy.
Are you healthy enough?
And I am healthy enough. And being diagnosed with cancer doesn't mean you stop serving. It doesn't mean you stop living. It doesn't mean that you no longer have any work to do.
He often reflected on his rise from humble beginnings to become mayor of the 4th largest city, calling it a testament to what is possible in the city. A proud servant of Houston. The year also brought moments that stopped Houstonians in their tracks for very different reasons. In January, remember this, a rare snow day blanketing parts of Houston. Families headed to parks, kids were out of school, and sledding popped up in places you don't usually see snow. Here's a look back at some of the highlights from that day.
Snow day! What, snow day!
A day that had Houstonians running for what passes as hills in these parts. No sled, no problem. We saw cardboard boxes, pool toys, and plastic bins.
This is our 2-year-old's first time in the snow, and this is just awesome for him.
You having fun? I think that's a yes.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, so you better keep it going.
Keep it going, they did. A viewer sent us this video. It gets the most creative award. Who needs a hill when you can get spun around on a sled on a rope tied to a digger? Bruh. The most daring award? This guy on skis being pulled by a car on 59 at a rather high rate of speed. The best wipeout? A man being pulled in a kayak. Wait for it. The most fearless, without a doubt, Sonny from Spring Branch went for a jog without a shirt on.
Did a quick 3 miles. It was a great run, and lots of people out here now, and I think it's just no better way to enjoy a snow day than run in the beautiful park we have here.
Here we go!
But our favorite of the day is our longtime anchor reporter, Shern Min Chow.
That's really fast!
Always there.
I'm gonna hit this trash can or a tree! Oh!
Boy, that was golden. That's a wrap of your Houston headlines from this year. I'm Len Cannon.
I'm Adriana Alexander. Here are the top stories from Central Texas. 2025 was a year that tested our area, from heartbreaking losses to major investigations that shook our community. Anchor Bailey Bates looks back at some of the stories that dominated headlines across the Central Texas community this year.
One of the year's most tragic stories unfolded in March when 14-year-old Serenity Baker was fatally stabbed inside Roy J. Smith Middle School in Killeen. Investigators say another student brought a knife onto campus during a passing period and stabbed her. That student was taken into custody, with charges now pending from county prosecutors. The district faced heavy scrutiny after confirming its Evolve weapons detector wasn't working that day, and Superintendent Dr. Joanne Fay acknowledged gaps in supervision. The principal, Fred Lilly, resigned, saying the district used him as a scapegoat, and Dr. Joanne Fay resigned in July after accepting the role of assistant superintendent at Northside ISD in San Antonio. A story that captured the attention of both her hometown and the military unfolded this year. 21-year-old Navy Seaman Angelina Resendez from Mejia went missing from Naval Station Norfolk on May 29th. And was later found dead in a nearby wooded area. Investigators say culinary specialist Jeremiah T. Copeland is facing multiple charges in connection with her death, including premeditated murder and sexual assault. Resendez's mother, Esmeralda Cantu Castle, criticized the Navy's handling of the case and has turned her grief into action, now running for Texas House in District 37. Marlin spent much of this year in a full water crisis. Marlin's water plant suffered catastrophic failure, shutting off water citywide and forcing schools to close. Volunteers and state crews stepped in with bottled water and portable showers. The mayor declared a disaster and portable treatments were provided. But even after restrictions eased, frustration grew with a nearly 40% rate hike set for 2026. If you've driven through Waco this year, you already know I-35 has been a mess. The final phase of the My-35 Waco South project finally kicked off in late February. TxDOT hired James Construction after a bidding process, the same company that's had delays in Bell and McLennan counties before. This time, TxDOT added incentives to keep them on schedule. TxDOT says this phase runs through 2029, so buckle up, Waco. We've still got years of construction ahead. Another major story this year, immigration arrests that sparked protests across Central Texas. In July, video of ICE agents breaking the window of Noe Guerrero's car went viral. Prosecutors later dropped the charge, saying he did have his immigration documents. ICE still held him briefly, prompting weeks of protests before a judge granted bond and he was released. And in a separate case, former Killeen ISD employee Ophelia Negrete Arriga was arrested by ICE, accused of falsifying employment documents and illegally re-entering the U.S. She later pled guilty in federal court and is awaiting sentencing. In November, Fort Hood suspended OBGYN Major Blaine McGraw after allegations that he secretly recorded patients during exams and performed procedures without proper oversight. Multiple law firms now represent dozens of alleged victims, and civil lawsuits have been filed. As of December, the Army formally charged McGraw with 61 criminal counts. The charges include 54 counts of indecent visual recording that allegedly occurred during medical exams at Darnall Army Medical Center throughout 2025. Texas lawmakers are now calling for an investigation into the Army's handling of Dr. McGraw. And while the investigation continues, McGraw remained in pretrial confinement at the Bell County Jail.
And those are your top stories of the year from Central Texas.
I'm Mike Gillespie in Corpus Christi, and here's a look back at some of what made news this year in South Texas. Water dominated much of the conversation in Texas this year as drought conditions forced some tough decisions. Here in Corpus Christi, city leaders made a surprising move, voting to kill a $1 billion desalination project years in the making. Michael Gibson has reaction from city leaders.
Staff is really good when we get clear direction. And we have had clear direction for the last 10 years on what the mission is, and we've executed that very, very well. And now to be told that that mission has been aborted and we need to go do something else, what exactly, I'm not entirely sure.
Outgoing COO of Corpus Christi Water, Drew Molly, voicing frustration after City Council pulled the plug on the Inner Harbor desal plant. The project had been years in the making, but now it's dead in the water. Instead, all eyes are on the Evangeline Aquifer in San Patricio County, where talks are underway to pipe in as much as 30 million gallons a day.
But we're negotiating what we need to do and how we need to move forward to close on it. So we are getting there. We have another meeting at 2 o'clock today. We meet every Wednesday.
But there's a catch. Molly says that Evangeline water won't reach faucets here until 2030.
You know, we need to have more conversation, the team will, with Councilwoman Vaughn. We've had 2 engineering firms look at the schedule, and the schedule I talked about last night, 2030, that's the schedule that they put forward. That wasn't Drew Molly, that was engineers who have looked at this.
Let me tell you something. I like Drew, but he doesn't know all of that. We have had so many things that have said you can't do that. So I have confidence in the people that are going to be involved. They've worked on it before and they already have plans for it.
And another big story here, our bridge. Before it made its final descent, over 600 people turned out for one last walk across the original Harbor Bridge. Lydia Herrera has a look at the event that brought the community together to say goodbye.
On Sunday, people of all ages, even pets, took one final walk across the historic Harbor Bridge before it's gone for good.
And so we just wanted to experience it one last time together before we start embarking on traveling to the new bridge.
A big part of the Ramirez family's new chapter, their baby girl Anastasia, who at just a year old is sharing a big memory with her parents.
We're getting active. That's my favorite part of events like this.
The Corpus Christi Downtown Management District hosted the final walk. Executive Director Arlene Medrano says it's a full circle moment, as it was about 15 years ago when a beloved DMD employee started the Bridge Walk program.
Alan is retiring at the end of the year, and he loves bridges, and it was important for me to make sure that this happened for Alan. I didn't want him to retire without having his final bridge walk, and so I know he's very proud to say that he has led over 31,000 people over the bridge, and he can add an additional 500 to that today.
A final chance for the community of different generations to say thank you to an old friend as they embrace a new one.
And it's historic for a lot of people. We have many loyal walkers who have continued to come out religiously for the last 15 years, and so we wanted to give the community an opportunity to say goodbye to our bridge.
A walk to remember and a memory to cherish as families like the Ramirez look ahead to making more.
And just realizing that generations grew up using this bridge, and so just seeing people that grew up here, their parents grew up here, and so it's a bittersweet moment, where you're letting go of something old but embarking and embracing something new and beautiful and bigger. And so we're just really excited and happy for all the city and what's to come.
And the new Harbor Bridge already writing a new chapter in our history. From Corpus Christi, that's a quick look at some of what made news this year in South Texas.
For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at terminiainsurance.com. For insurance you can trust, help is just a handshake away. Find your local agent at terminiainsurance.com.
I'm Mark Mullins with some of the top stories we've covered in Austin over the last year. In November, Austin ISD leaders made the difficult decision to close and consolidate 10 schools. Earlier that month, the superintendent removed 3 elementary schools from the list of proposed closures. One of them is Maplewood Elementary, where parents rallied to save the school. Here's Malia Masamoto.
Families and musicians coming together Wednesday night for a concert to save Maplewood Elementary.
They're like family to me. They're like my second family.
Aliana Garza is a proud legacy of Maplewood Elementary. Much of her family all went there.
I attended Maplewood in the early 80s, so Maplewood has been really good.
The school is one of the 13 campuses at risk of closing under the school district's proposed consolidation plan. Several of those schools received failing accountability ratings this year from the Texas Education Agency, except for Maplewood, which received an A rating.
It's heartbreaking because I want to see my youngest one grow in a good school, good teachers, good staff, and a good community.
District leaders say the plan is necessary due to AISD's ongoing budget shortfall and declining enrollment numbers.
We are very realistic with the public about what the anticipated savings could be and when, and really do look at the enrollment.
Adam Sparks is another Maplewood parent.
I dreamed about sending my son there. It just feels like the very best version of public education in America.
He's worried that with a vote around the corner, they haven't been shown enough financial details on how much the closure would save the district and how that could help the budget shortfall.
Without any actual deliverables, without anything that we can point to and say, you promised these students this plan isn't going to work.
And he's confused why their school remains on the chopping block.
When you have something that is beloved by the community, that is growing enrollment at a time when enrollment is lowing, that is meeting every single measurable you as a district could give to it, you don't go to those people and say, you must suffer for the rest of the district.
All these families just hoping their voices are loud enough to keep their school around.
Let's get it right, AISD.
In September, Austin police say they solved who killed 4 teen girls in North Austin 34 years ago and what became known as the Yogurt Shop murders. It was December 1991. 4 girls at a North Austin yogurt shop were tied up, shot, and burned. The suspect, Robert Eugene Brashers, had no known ties to Austin aside from these murders, and he died by suicide in early 1999, about 8 years after the crime. That timing is tragically noteworthy because it's also about 8 months before Austin police charged 4 other men with the murders, cases that ultimately collapsed over the next decade. This isn't the only horrific crime the suspect has been linked to. Previous reporting by authorities in Missouri connects Brashers to the 1990 murder of a woman in South Carolina. Then in 1998, a double murder of a mother and daughter in Missouri. The cases were linked with advancements in DNA technology. The horrific crime left Austin torn and at the same time brought people together to help in any way they could. Bob Buckaloo shows us how the murders of those 4 girls shook the then small community of Austin to its core.
In 1991, Austin still had a bit of a small-town feel, that something so terrible could happen in a city where violent crime was rare, in a nice neighborhood where 4 young girls would die under such horrific circumstances. Many spoke of a city that had lost its innocence.
This was at a time when this didn't happen in Austin. People in town were scared. They were terrified. This is going to happen again. Could it happen to my kid?
A city was grieving. Funeral services for the 4 girls brought hundreds to a North Austin church.
I feel shock, I feel anger, I feel rage, and I feel loss.
Then grief was channeled into action as students and parents mobilized to help police find clues.
I know that you're doing this for the girls, and I know you're doing this for the city of Austin. And I know you're doing it for yourselves.
Volunteers handed out flyers at shopping malls. Others went door to door.
We're walking the neighborhoods today, handing out flyers and putting out white ribbons in an effort to find the murderers of the girls that were killed, and I can't believe it's yogurt.
Mom, is that fine?
That's great, honey.
The parents of the girls went on television to share memories of their children.
I guess the thing that I miss the very most is when she and her friend Michelle would go out dancing, and then they had this ritual of taking pictures of each other. They'd put their arms around each other and then hold the camera. One would hold the camera and click, and then the next one would do it.
Who could have done such a thing? There were thousands of leads and even some arrests that were later dismissed. Now, 34 years after the yogurt shop tragedy, it appears that the crime has been solved. Bob Buckaloo, KVUE News.
In downtown Austin, demolition on the Austin Convention Center is already underway to make room for a much larger facility. But throughout the year, one group has been calling for a pause on construction, saying voters should have the say before anything new goes up. Malia Masamoto has more.
This is how the Austin Convention Center is looking right now. But in a few years, it could look like this. That is, unless Austinites have a say.
They're not letting us vote on it. That's anti-democratic. This is just a phenomenal waste of money.
According to the city, the $1.6 billion Austin Convention Center expansion project is expected to bring in an additional $285 million in spending to the city annually.
It's that echo effect of meetings and conventions and the compression that, big events have within downtown throughout the entire city.
The project isn't paid for through property taxes, but instead through the hotel occupancy tax, also called HOT. But even so, some locals like Bill Bunch aren't happy that's where the money's going.
If we just call time out and redirect that money to things that actually benefit locals, fit within the state statute, and also bring real tourists here too.
The Austin United PAC started a petition in May in hopes of pausing the expansion project. Now, with more than 18,000 signatures, the group is well on their way to getting the 20,000 needed to either stop it for 7 years or put it on the ballot. And even though the demolition has already started,
in terms of rethinking what is the best use for this huge swath of downtown, our timing is perfect for that discussion.
He's hoping council will consider asking the public what they want this 6 blocks of land to be used for, but others say the convention center is the best solution.
It's a critical economic driver, not just for our downtown, but for our entire city. And so I think not having that would be, detrimental to our community.
Austin United has until October to collect enough signatures, but Bunch is confident they'll get it done in the next few weeks.
Especially during this budget season, it's time for them to face reality and cut what is actually harmful to the city.
In Austin, Malia Masamoto, KVUE News.
And we can tell you that efforts to stop the construction have been unsuccessful so far. Those were some of the top stories in Austin this year. I'm Mark Mullins.
Hi, I'm Brennan Gurley in East Texas. A family is living a nightmare that they pray no other family will ever endure. The Walkers lost their son Colin to fentanyl back in 2023. It's been an emotional roller coaster ever since, with a suspected internet dealer getting charged in his death back in 2024, followed by some unexpected turns with the judicial system. CBS 19's Dana Dixon sat down with Colin's mom, Ginger, who's not giving up the fight for justice for her son and other children like him.
Colin was one of those kids. I mean, if you look around the room in the photos, he was so sweet and he was gentle. He loved animals and he loved all of his friends. I always knew he was sweet and kind. Just your kid's heart. But what I really didn't know was how many people he saved. Since his passing, just off the top of my head, there's 3 or 4 people, 3 in particular, that have told me that Colin saved their life.
And yet, Colin Walker's life cut all too short by fentanyl, a deadly synthetic opioid that the DEA says is being pressed into fake pills and cut into heroin, cocaine, and other street drugs to drive addiction. Colin, a University of Oklahoma and All Saints graduate, was just 28 years old and working on another degree in industrial design at Metropolitan State University in Denver when his parents got the call no one wants to hear.
It just doesn't even feel real. So I get up every day and you look around, you see all the photos, and it makes me really sad.
But his mom, Ginger, doesn't want what happened to Colin to be the end of another son or daughter's story.
But it sounded like he was trying to get Xanax to help with the anxiety and to help him sleep, not knowing that, obviously it was laced with fentanyl. But I wish I would have known known more.
She believes Colin, like a lot of people, was dealing with anxiety and depression.
I didn't really realize to what extent. I think he's kind of a typical boy that didn't always talk about his feelings, at least to myself or my husband. He'd just tell me he was having trouble sleeping, and I do know he was, reached out to the counselors at school. I think he was doing the right thing, trying to get help. And then unfortunately, he reached out to the wrong person.
Ginger says it's not always a dealer on the street selling fentanyl, but people behind smartphones and computer screens.
With technology advancements, traffickers exploit that.
Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Ivan Carrera with the Drug Enforcement Administration, says parents should know traffickers are lurking on social media, advertising and selling the drugs.
They use smartphones and encrypted applications to communicate with each other. So they get into that space and they market the pills to look like legitimate pharmaceutical pills, but these are not legitimate pharmaceutical pills. They're illicit.
Even in her grief, Ginger is begging children, whether you're a teenager or an adult, to talk to your parents or someone you trust and tell them you're struggling and not to buy or take pills that don't come from your doctor.
Because if it happened to us, and if it happened to him, it can happen to you. It crosses socioeconomic barriers. It can happen to anyone.
Because one pill can kill.
This is a fight to save lives. They will target anyone who will consume the product because once they consume it once, the addictive properties within this opioid are so strong that it triggers a chemical reaction in a human to want to get that again and again.
The DEA says drug cartels are making fentanyl to look like Xanax, Adderall, OxyContin, and other pharmaceuticals.
The only safe way to get one of those pills is through your doctor, prescribed to you, and you can acquire it through a registered pharmacy that is authorized to distribute controlled substances in our country. That's it.
In other cases, the fentanyl looks like candy, but it's 50 times more potent than heroin. It only takes a small dose of fentanyl to be lethal.
It's just, I can't just sit here and not do anything. So I'm trying to get justice for Colin, and then I can't bring him back, but I just want to try to save other kids and other people.
Dana Huey, CBS 19.
A beloved East Texas teacher known for her heart, humor, and her unwavering dedication to students is being remembered after a sudden and heartbreaking battle with cancer. CBS 19's Robert De La Garza spoke with the family and friends of 41-year-old Casey Acker, who share the powerful legacy she leaves behind and how her final lesson may have been her greatest yet.
Casey Acker spent nearly 2 decades inspiring young minds across East Texas, including Jacksonville, White House, and finishing her career teaching elementary students at Bullard ISD.
Casey always had a heart for kids, so I think that's where her career initially sparked.
Her siblings Shelly Self and Brady Shaw say Casey was diagnosed with triple-negative metastatic breast cancer in early June, despite having no symptoms.
By the time that we had gotten to the hospital, it had already progressed into her liver, her bone marrow, her brain, and her lungs.
And doctors gave her just 10 days to live.
Unfortunately, she did pass, within about 24 hours of being here with all of the family and friends. So,
despite the grim prognosis, her family says she continued to fight. Small in stature, but mighty, they say.
And she proved to be extremely mighty when she was given that prognosis. She never lost hope. She never gave up.
But even in her final moments, Casey was still teaching, this time, lessons of strength, grace, and love.
Casey taught our family more in the last 48 hours of her life than I have ever learned in my entire life.
A selfless soul, always thinking of others, especially her students.
So she had just started summer school the week before she went into the hospital, and she was worried about, missing her kids and not being able to do summer school.
At Bullard ISD, Casey earned accolades including Primary Teacher of the Year, District Elementary Teacher of the Year, and TIA Master Teacher.
That's the highest level that you can reach as a teacher in the state of Texas. And so she worked very tirelessly for that and was very proud of that.
Christy Pudwell worked alongside Casey at Bullard ISD and says her impact will be deeply felt.
She was one of a kind. She was remarkable, and we won't be able to replace her. We will just have to go on with her legacy and the way that we teach and the way that we interact with our children.
They say Bullard ISD already has plans to honor Casey and her legacy.
Yes, so Bullard Education Foundation is going to be naming a scholarship after her. So that's a wonderful tribute to a wonderful teacher.
Now, loved ones are remembering Casey for her contagious smile and witty personality. Her family says the outpouring of love has been overwhelming, showing just how many lives she touched along her journey.
There's people I've never met in my life come up to me and share the support and the condolences to us and the family. She left a big impact, for sure, 100%.
Reporting in Jacksonville, Robert De La Garza, CBS 19.
That's a wrap of our top stories of 2025. Out of East Texas, I'm Brennan Gurley.
We're taking a look at some of the top stories from Southeast Texas this year. I'm Ebony Coleman. January started in tragedy just over the state line in New Orleans. Police say Shamsuddin Jabbar, a Beaumont native, plowed through a crowd on Bourbon Street. That New Year's Day attack killed 14 people and injured 35 others. Jabbar was killed in a shootout with police. His younger brother, Abdur Jabbar, said having to tell their father the news was gut-wrenching. He sat down with anchor Clayton Rhodes for an extended interview. Abdur asked us not to show his face for his safety.
My older brother, I just lost him. And also that, he caused so much damage and destruction to other people.
A moment of shock, disbelief, and heartbreak.
I kind of just froze. Was just in complete shock. I dropped my phone and just broke down into tears.
24-year-old Abdur Rahim Jabbar recounting the gut-wrenching moment when he first learned his brother was the suspect of the Bourbon Street attack on New Year's Day.
My aunt called me around 10 a.m. But she called my dad first, and they kind of just talked, exchanged Happy New Year. Her birthday was also on the 1st, so we told her happy birthday.
Jabbar says she didn't have the heart to mention the attack that killed 14 people and injured dozens more.
She wanted to let me know that it was my brother that was involved in the attack.
The FBI revealed a new detailed timeline saying that 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar drove a rented truck from Houston to New Orleans on December 31st. At 2:03 a.m., he's seen near Bourbon Street. By 3:15 a.m., surveillance video shows him taking a right turn and barreling into a crowd of people.
Our hearts, prayers, and thoughts go out to those families, those who lost their loved ones as well, and those who were there, because they're dealing with the trauma too of just being there.
The 24-year-old says having to tell their father was heartbreaking.
He's devastated, that was his firstborn son, it's unbelievable for everyone.
The attacker's brother calling the attack completely outside Jabbar's character.
I want them to understand that this wasn't a representation of who my brother was, and that it also isn't a representation of what it means to be a Muslim or al-Islam in general.
That was Clayton Rhodes reporting. Also in January, a Facebook video went viral. It showed the moments that happened as a Beaumont police officer tried to arrest two women outside of Little Woodrow's on Phelan. Police say Jamisha Butler and Melissa Bell had too much to drink and were being detained. An officer put Bell in his car, but Butler took off. Now we want to warn you, the video we're about to show you is difficult to watch. Butler headed for her convertible. An officer jumps on top of the car trying to stop her, but he fell off and hit his head on the pavement. We spoke to a branch manager at Regional Finance just a few doors down from Little Woodrow's. She called the incident concerning.
I think that they should have a little bit more security out here for that to happen and only be one cop out here. I think that was very dangerous, the way the car just sped off, and that was just it. So it's a little bit concerning.
The officer ended up with serious head injuries and was sent to the hospital. And then over the summer, tragedy struck again. 3 workers died and 2 others were injured when a scaffold collapsed underneath them. It happened at Port Arthur LNG, a natural gas liquefaction and export terminal in Southeast Texas. Now, Bechtel, a contracting firm, released its findings of an internal investigation. The company says several factors led to the deadly scaffold collapse. Reporter Spencer Plato had the reaction from a lawyer representing one of the victims' families.
People need to understand that this is a very serious matter.
Questions as to what caused the deadly scaffold collapse at Port Arthur LNG in Sabine Pass now being answered 6 months later.
We have friends, cousins, dads, brothers and sisters that work at these refineries and work at these big projects. We want them to be able to be safe, to go to work and come home safely. And when tragedy occurs and people die, the responsible parties need to be held accountable.
A statement released by Bechtel says multiple factors led to the collapse, including an improperly secured bracket. Bechtel also says some crew members were not clipped into their safety lines. The company says it's now changed its safety protocols, including ending nighttime operations.
How do you take care of the widows and the children that were left behind? And that's what we all need to pay attention to. I've never seen a document like this before. Signed from actually the president of the company.
Cade Burnson represents the family of one of the victims, Reginald McGee. Burnson says the statement from Bechtel is a PR stunt and an attempt to move the case out of Jefferson County.
We haven't forgotten there's unresolved business on the restraining order violation. And so we're not going to give up on that. But in the meantime, what they're trying to do is take the case out of Jefferson County to where the community here doesn't get to see the evidence and doesn't get to hear the testimony.
That was Spencer Plato reporting. This case is still working its way through the courts, and those were your headlines from Southeast Texas.
Texas News Now is sponsored by Germania Insurance.